What's up, Lords of Gaming, and welcome back to another episode of Marvel Future Revolution. Today we jump into another episode of the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's more or less a look at the specialization and the new potential window. So jumping into this right away, I'm going to tell you right up that I find most of this not to be good. Let's talk about the good right up front for those people who are, worried about me sounding a little salty in some of this stuff, and then we'll jump into the bad. So the good is that specializations, those have been changed for the better in some regard. I was able to hit finally a max cap on my Dark Magic Etched Fear, which was my increased max damage rate, most likely because of the new so it's good that this has been given a pity system. The bad part about it is I feel like the pity system is still not enough. What I mean by that is basically your pity system is increments of 5%. So for every failure you make, you get a 5% boost in terms of that pity system. So meaning that if you're trying to go from 9 to 10 and that requires it's a 20% success rate, it will go up to 25%. You fail again, it'll go to 30%, and so forth and so forth. So you see how long it could conceivably take in order to hit a success rate. Now, I'm going to say right out that it is good, essentially, that they've added a pity system inside here. It's bad in that there is a pity system or success rate change in building the character in the first place. Typically in MMORPGs, building out a character in terms of its innate stats, its foundational level things, they should not have a RNG basis to them. The reason because is it's part of the character. Essentially me leveling up stats inside this window right here for this character. Let's say if I increase etching sand, right? That's part of the character. I've earned this. I've played through a game mode that you require me to log in every day for and to battle bosses, and whether I spent crystals or whether I spent my raid reward tickets, I've earned this. So the fact that you remained a system inside here, it makes it bad. Where it gets ugly when we talk about specializations is specifically the part that you are now saying to me that I'm capped out on these in terms of every day how I can complete in the raids, and you want me to do this for multiple characters now, because remember that's where they're heading at in this direction, because most likely because they cannot figure out a way how they don't really understand the monetization wheel inside here. So they're literally throwing this out saying, hey, you should be able to build up multiple characters because we got squad PvE coming down the chain. We don't have anything for you guys in terms of new characters coming out, at least that we're spoiling for you guys at this moment or giving you a roadmap of, but you should be investing in multiple characters. Tends not to be the case in most MMORPGs. You really don't, like, think about playing Destiny, right? You might have, there's only 3 characters inside there, but most people don't have time to spend on 3 characters unless you're just a complete Destiny nut. You know what I mean? This is a mobile game. How many characters are you really going to be investing in that regard? So specializations. So luckily this has gotten me into a little bit of, I was able to complete my Etched Fear, thank God. I'm now trying to work on completing my time manipulation. Yes, I know that a lot of people use Hogoff's Blessing, where it's decreased damage received from nearby enemies by 16.2% or 18% at max. However, for me, I choose to invest in time manipulation, Waves Despair, and I'm increasing my max cooldown hopefully at about 13.5%. Now I am doing that a little bit arbitrarily because the max cap in the game realistically is 50%, and regardless of the fact that you have a cooldown in the game, you realistically don't have you don't really have a window to actually utilize that because your stamina is basically capped at 100. So anytime that they've added any skills that are going to require you to pay like 49, 39, 37 kind of stamina to do, you're looking at the stamina recovery window. So investing in cooldown is really difficult because that cooldown decrease will jump by, like, it'll say, yeah, my skill is on cooldown, but do I have enough stamina, and has my stamina recovery met up with those? At current, with my stamina recovery, I can get close to about 170% stamina recovery, but it just doesn't seem to have much of an effect in terms of playing Doctor Strange. I can maybe get 2 rotations or a rotation and a half, depending on what skills I cast, before I have to back off, pull out of a fight, and wait for that cooldown time. Now this plays out more or less inside quick engagements than it does inside PvE environments. And you can see here that I'm also almost maxed out on my crit rate and my crit damage, which is the primary things that I'm investing in. I've told you guys the direction that I'm trying to go in here, and slowly I'm trying to find places to build up super villain damage. I'm trying to find places to build up villain damage. I just haven't been lucky in those regards yet on any kind of cards. But I have some information coming for you guys. Now, moving over from Specialization, let's talk about the new enhanced potential that they've had inside here. So for Doctor Strange, I'm going to tell you outright that I feel like this is a complete waste. Yeah, I feel like this is a complete waste inside here. We're looking at accuracy rate, and to be honest with you, accuracy rate doesn't seem like it really affects Doctor Strange a lot. You're basically still hitting a character, but essentially, by having the accuracy rate inside here, so let's take a look at the stats over here for my character. I was at roughly about 107 before, I think it was, and that accuracy rate has allowed me to be at 110. That doesn't really seem to be a problem for Doctor Strange in terms of I need to be at like 110 or something like that to mitigate somebody's dodge rate. Most players understand the cap limits that you need to be on accuracy in order to manipulate the dodge rate. The problem isn't the dodge rate innately itself with characters like Spider-Man, who can seemingly move through invincibility frames, because it's not the dodge rate that I'm worried about, it's the invincibility rate that I'm worried about, meaning the rate that he rebuilds those three dodge gauges, so now he's just invincible, which doesn't take into consideration the dodge rate in itself, right? But so hitting those characters, not necessarily a difficulty in terms of the dodge rate mechanic itself, but it's more or less the dodge rate. I hope you guys understand that innately. So Doctor Strange, I think one of his major issues and major problems is that they seem really invested in the potential, being that he has these stats that rely around defense and HP. They seem to consistently be off the mark in terms of their the fundamentals of how this character is working, meaning defense and HP in this game is really weird, because this comes into like Hoggoth's Blessing, for instance, right? So let's say you equip Hoggoth's Blessing. Do you really need Hoggoth's Blessing inside a PvE environment? Realistically, no, you don't. There's no reason to have Hoggoth's Blessing equipped when you're playing PvE, because guess what? If a character is going to hit you and mitigate some damage to you, you're just going to pop up a potion and you keep it moving, or you pay the 15,000 gold, whatever it is, and then you just keep it moving as well. Not really a reason, which is one of the reasons why I'm running max cooldown decrease inside of the inside there. So I use max cooldown instead of Hoggoth's Blessing. Now, Hoggoth's Blessings would probably be better overall for you to switch out to and use inside PvP play when you were playing, especially like Omega War, Alliance Omega War, and if you were playing in areas like Dark Zone and probably potentially Squad PvE. Obviously, you want to switch out and probably use Hoggoth's Blessing there, because it's going to have some things, and even there I'm kind of questionable about whether it works to the extent that most players really believe it works, because I'm decreasing the damage, but if somebody's breaking through because they have high defense pierce, or they are just hitting me really hard with accuracy rate, Doctor Strange, if you notice, if he takes damage, he takes damage and he's dead. Most PvP battles only last maybe in the vicinity of 15-30 seconds in the first place, so how much is that Hoggoth's Blessing really mitigating? So that's the question really there. I know plenty of players that if you looked inside the Doctor Strange top tier, so if I was to go records, rankings, and then you were to go inside the elite rankings of Doctor Strange characters, Is this Yags? Did he go to Spider Pigs? I don't know. Okay, well, I'll ask about that later, but let's not get to that. All right, so additional info. If we looked at his specialization, you can see, for instance, he's using Hoggoth's Blessing. Most players are using some variation of, you know, Hoggoth's Blessing compared to these. Most players are straight up using Mystic Arts class skill damage, which is this one right here, the Dark Magic, and then so you can see he's using this. The max cooldown is obviously something that he's using as well. And if you were to go through the top 10 players, you can see me sat here at number 6. I finally eclipsed Busy. Well, wow, look at that. You'll notice that you'll see some variation in play amongst that right there. You see, you can see it. Essentially, it's all there. Increase the max damage rate by 67.5% when using Mystic Arts class skills, and another one that's being rotated in. So it's going to be one of those differentials that you're basically playing with inside of your windows. Everybody is mostly playing between those 5 abilities because there aren't really many builds for Doctor Strange out there that are significantly going to help you better. And what I mean by this is that potential window now for a bunch of different characters is going to mean different things. You might not be playing a Doctor Strange. For Doctor Strange, the main issue that I have here is that once again we've gone to this next level of we put defense and HP as window dressing. Unfortunately, this is bad because window dressing essentially for Doctor Strange, especially at this level 5 with 90 potential reports being required, is quite a lot. It's an extremely lot, you know. So you're basically investing in skills or you know, stats that Doctor Strange doesn't really benefit from. Rising up your defense, I can tell you right now, you go play just about any game related to Netmarble, whether it's Marvel Future Fight, whether it's Seven Deadly Sins, whether it's Lineage, and you'll see defense really means nothing. Stacking up HP pools is pretty decent, but if players are hitting you as hard as they hit Doctor Strange, you're really not going to get a lot from HP in the first place. If a player's just able to outclass you because of their attack damages in the first place, like Iron Man can, Spider-Man, you'll probably survive across a little bit more, but if you get a character like Iron Man or Black Widow who's coming at you, or a character like Storm who's able to do some damage over time continuously that, you know, ignites, especially like Star-Lord and Storm specifically, then your HP pools are going to mean very little as well. They'll mean something to you inside of, you know, PvE environments, but they're not going to matter very much inside PvP. So that's just something to look. So I was really disappointed to see this was the skill tree over here, especially given the fact that, you know, this used to be cooldown decrease over here. It would have been nice to see that this would have remained cooldown decrease, and what they added here was the crit rate here instead of accuracy rate, or that they gave us back the cooldown decrease here. It really makes no sense to me that they did this. Like this is what I mean by, I feel like sometimes when we're talking about Netmarble, especially this game, we're dealing with the JV development team. You knew this was coming, but for some reason you took away the cooldown decrease. Well, guess what? For a character like Doctor Strange, it's really not that difficult to hit the cooldown decrease, but it does become a required investment by you, the player. For me, for instance, some people are asking, well, how are you able to hit that cooldown decrease numbers? Because I'm pretty high. I can get up to 65% total cooldown decrease, which would totally mitigate my need for anything else. But that's because if you look at my cards, I specifically have to invest as a Doctor Strange player into the cooldown decrease stat. And unfortunately for Doctor Strange, this is the only stat that actually matters inside his exclusive skill tree, because once upon a time Doctor Strange's ultimate was decent and it was good, and then they nerfed it, and not realizing how badly that they nerfed two of his skills that were bread and butter to it, we kind of kept rolling down that hill. And so now two of Doctor Strange's exclusive stats were seemingly supposed to be like magic, where he was supposed to be a cooldown character with an ultimate gauge recovery mechanic that was going to be to make him feel powerful. You know, I've showed you guys this inside Marvel Future Fight. I know none of you guys really participate in my Marvel Future Fight videos when I post those, but I've showed you this in Marvel Future Fight. He was supposed to be a crit rate, crit damage monster who literally rotates into his skills quickly, so that way that's building up his ultimate gauge recovery, and that thereby letting him use his ultimate gauge and it would do a lot of damage. The problem is that this skill represented a really big wide area inside PvP, and the damage was really calculable inside there, so it would kill players. And Doctor Strange was a pretty big beefy boss within like the first month of the game, but then they nerfed him. And so now when you use Doctor Strange's ultimate skill even inside of like PvE, it doesn't do anything. Like, it doesn't necessarily kill any even the PvP characters that you're playing at certain tiers. So I get the mechanic of how Doctor Strange is supposed to work, similar to like Magic, where she uses her skills, she's able to jump in and out of her ultimate gauge, but they've messed up the character here because his ultimate skill feels inadequate. I would be perfectly happy with a Doctor Strange who was a PvE dominant character, and that was the place that you wanted to have him focus in. I think most players probably would be really feel healthier about the game if characters were geared towards something that you were saying these characters are meant to excel in these areas. Doctor Strange is meant to be a PvE monster. Cool. His ultimate gauge is supposed to affect PvE elements, and by there, this is the mechanic that we have built. Have his skills on constant cooldown, so that way you're using those skills which help him build up his ultimate gauge, and when he casts his ultimate gauge, this is where the majority of the damage is coming from. Bing, bada boom, crowds, areas, attacks drop, and then he has a certain segment of skills that are good for single target damage to bosses. He's a PvE monster. Guys, you should be building this character towards PvE. He's not going to be that great inside PvP. You might want to invest in another character that's really skilled for PvP. It would be the same thing like if you said that for Spider-Man, where you can say, okay, this character is really built for PvP but not built for PvE. They don't have an intent to address the character's attack levels the way he was in the beginning of the game, because his attack levels were meant to neuter you inside of PvP elements or Black Widow or something like that. But you guys get the point that I'm saying here, right? There's specific people who are supposed to be crowd control effects, so they'd be monsters inside of the Dark Zone or Alliance Omega War and so forth like that. Those kind of things add credibility to building up multiple characters. It's just the systems that you have in play inside this game don't really facilitate that, and that's the bad part about this game. So enhanced potential, the good is that I think some characters essentially got some pretty good stats. Like, for instance, let's jump on over before we finish out, specifically talking about Spider-Man. Inside here, I jumped inside his to take a look at his special stats. I looked at some of the other characters, some of them like Iron Man and Black Widow. I think a lot of players are going to be unhappy with, because basically it's attack, defense, and HP stats all over again. And I'd prefer attack stat. That'd have been great, but I think a lot of players seeing defense and HP inside their pools as well isn't going to really help. Not to mention that looking at this window, and this is going to be my final thoughts here, so you can see he got attack, HP, and dodge rate inside it, so he's further just beefing up his dodge rate. The last point that I want to make about the ugliness of this is specific to the cost. So adding in another 5th level potential for a character means that you're expanding out the kit in another way, right? But the point is that the roadmap that you've given us shows that you want us to kind of gear out towards building up multiple characters. And meanwhile, the things that you're implementing are showing that you're not understanding that your system is limited in that regard. If we looked at this overall and you said that it takes 90 potentials per one level, and that means 90 times 20 is 1800 potential reports that you're essentially needing for just one tree. 1800. I believe in my head the math is 5400 potential reports across the board here. That means 5400 potential reports. That means if I was a free-to-play player, and I was collecting just the potential reports from the weekly basis of going inside the Alliance shop over here. Like if we go inside the Alliance shop, we can see that there's a box of 50 potential reports there, and then I think there's another 50 potential reports. So that means 54 weeks in order for you to get all of the specialization, the potential reports at just this one level. to master out that characters. That's 54 weeks. That's a year. Now, obviously, you have other ways to earn some of the potential reports that would knock that down, where you could basically farm out inside of training grounds, and you might get, you know, like at 6, you know, I think I was getting like maybe like 200 or something like that for like a full run like 8 hours per week or something like that, maybe getting like somewhere 150 or something like that. But you're still really only looking at something like, you know, you're still looking at somewhere between like, you know, half a year to a full year to just get that final tree if you're a free-to-play player. This is not free-to-play friendly. This is literally incentivized pay to win, because now those specializations are going to mean something. You know, a player being able to evolve their character to these levels where they can say that I've got this completed and now I'm getting the full potential of dodge rate from here, you're obviously going to be up on another character in terms of that you're doing. So where it is for like certain characters, I think some people are going to be pissed off about the potentials there, and some people aren't. There's going to be some people willing to pay into those potentials, and there's going to be some people who aren't. I'm not exactly happy about them. I think that it's very ugly the way that they've instituted. There's some good things about what they did for specializations, but they're not enough. They're just not enough. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, guys, do me a favor. If you stuck around to the end, hit like and subscribe. If you watched it for 5 minutes, hit like. You like the video, like it. You've been coming on the channel, you appreciate the content I'm producing for you guys, hit subscribe. Everything helps. The algorithm helps me bring you guys more content anyways. So until next time, peace.